The air, once filled with the sweet scent of mangoes and the damp earth, now choked with smoke. An angry orange glow pulsed on the horizon, growing larger, hotter, consuming everything in its path. The jungle, our vibrant, sprawling home, was on fire. Panic rippled through the trees. Monkeys screeched, birds took flight in chaotic flocks, and the ground trembled as herds stampeded, desperate to escape the inferno. I stood with Shanti, her hand gripping mine, her face pale with fear. We watched as the flames licked at the ancient banyan trees, turning centuries of life into pillars of black smoke. This wasn't just a fire, it was the end of our world. Every rustle in the undergrowth, every distant cry, was a story being erased. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror. How could we possibly survive this? Suddenly, a low growl rumbled beside me. It was Bagheera, his sleek black coat singed, his yellow eyes wide with grim determination. "Mowgli," he said, his voice raspy, "we cannot outrun this. We must face it." Before I could answer, a familiar, carefree voice cut through the chaos. "Hey, little britches. Looks like things are getting a little toasty." Baloo lumbered toward us, his usual lazy smile gone, replaced by a look of steely resolve. He wasn't just here for the bare necessities, he was here to fight for them. From the other side, a chaotic fanfare of trumpets and cymbals announced the arrival of King Louie and his band of monkeys. They swung down from the smoking branches, their usual mischief replaced by a surprising seriousness. "Man cub," Louie chattered, pointing a long finger at the blaze. "This party's a real bust. We gotta do something, or there'll be no more jungle for our jive." They weren't just thinking of themselves, they were thinking of our home. For the first time, I saw it clearly. We were all here, together. Bear, panther, monkey, human. The lines that had once divided us seemed to melt away in the searing heat. We were all just jungle folk facing the same monstrous threat. We were a family, and our family was in danger. "Bagheera's right," I said, my voice finding a strength I didn't know I had. "We can't run. We have to fight. For our home." Shanti squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with a new kind of fire, not of destruction, but of hope. She nodded. "Together." But as we stood there, a strange alliance forming in the face of disaster, a shadow fell over us. A powerful, terrifying presence that made the very air grow still. A low, menacing snarl echoed through the clearing, and from the curtain of smoke, Shere Khan emerged. His striped coat was matted with soot, his emerald eyes blazing with an intensity that rivaled the fire itself. My breath caught in my throat. The tiger, my sworn enemy, the hunter who had stalked my every step, was here. My first instinct was to run, to protect Shanti, to get away from the predator who wanted me gone. But he didn't lunge. He didn't snarl with threat. He simply stood there, watching the flames devour the trees that had been his hunting grounds, his kingdom. There was no triumph in his eyes, no satisfaction at my fear. There was only loss. The same loss that was etched on all our faces. "The fire takes everything." Shere Khan's voice was a low, gravelly rumble, filled with a resentment that wasn't directed at me, but at the flames. "It does not care for the laws of the jungle. It does not care for hunter or prey." He looked at me then, a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. "This jungle is my home too, man cub." The words hung in the air, heavier than the smoke. Baloo shifted uncomfortably, and Bagheera's tail twitched, but no one moved. In that moment, the greatest law of the jungle was rewritten. It was no longer about the strongest, or the fastest, or the cleverest. It was about survival. And survival, we were learning, had no room for old hatreds. "Then help us," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Help us save it." A long, tense silence followed. The roar of the fire was the only sound. Shere Khan stared at me, his gaze weighing my words. weighing a lifetime of animosity against the immediate, all-consuming threat. Finally, with a slow, deliberate nod, he conceded, "What must be done?" And so, the most unlikely team the jungle had ever seen was born. Baloo, with his immense strength, began tearing down dry, flammable brush to create a firebreak. He worked with a focus I'd never seen, his powerful paws clearing a path, his breath coming in heavy pants. King Louie and his monkeys, nimble and quick, swarmed the canopy above. They used large, wet leaves from the riverbank, creating a makeshift blanket to smother the smaller fires that leaped from tree to tree, working like a chaotic but surprisingly effective bucket brigade. Shanti and I organized the smaller animals, guiding deer and boars to dig trenches with their hooves and snouts, creating barriers of earth to slow the fire's advance. We worked as one, our movements synchronized, our purpose singular. And Bagheera, with his strategic mind, directed our efforts. He moved between the groups, his voice sharp and clear, pointing out weak spots, identifying where the wind was shifting, coordinating our desperate defense. But it was Shere Khan's role that was most astonishing. With his unparalleled power and knowledge of the terrain, he cleared the largest obstacles. He charged at burning logs, sending them crashing into the river. He roared, not in anger, but as a command, herding panicked animals away from the most dangerous areas and toward the safety of the river. He and Baloo, predator and gentle giant, worked side by side, a testament to the desperation of the moment. An enemy and a friend fighting the same battle. We were a symphony of desperation, a united front against the raging storm of fire. Hours bled into a timeless, smoke-filled haze. Our bodies ached, our lungs burned, but we didn't stop. Every time exhaustion threatened to pull us under, a look at a friend, a nod from an old foe, a shared glance with Shanti was enough to push us forward. We were fighting for more than just the trees and the river. We were fighting for each other. We were fighting for the very idea of us. Slowly, painstakingly, our combined efforts began to turn the tide. The fire breaks held. The trenches slowed the spread. The river, our greatest ally, finally contained the last of the ravenous flames. As dawn broke, the angry orange glow faded, replaced by the soft, gray light of a new day. The fire was out. Silence descended, a heavy, somber silence. We stood amidst the devastation, a landscape of black, skeletal trees and ash-covered ground. The vibrant green was gone, replaced by a monochrome wasteland. It was a graveyard of our home. Despair, cold and sharp, pierced through my exhaustion. Did we win? Or did we just survive to see what we had lost? We looked at each other, bear, panther, monkey king, tiger, and humans. We were all covered in soot, weary to the bone, but we were all here. We had stood together, and we had endured. Just then, my eyes caught a flicker of color in the sea of gray. There, pushing its way through a crack in the charred earth, was a tiny, vibrant green sprout. A single perfect leaf reaching for the sunlight. It was so small, so fragile, yet so defiantly alive. It was a promise. I knelt, the ash soft as dust beneath my knees. I reached out and gently placed my hand over the tiny plant, not touching it, but feeling the warmth of the life it held. The jungle wasn't dead, it was just sleeping. And in that moment, I understood everything. The jungle wasn't just the trees, the river, or the animals. It was the bond between us. The strength we found when we worked together. Shanti knelt beside me, placing her hand next to mine. Bagheera, Louie. Even Shere Khan drew closer, their eyes fixed on that single point of life. I looked at them, my family, my friends, my former enemy, and I whispered the truth that the fire had burned into my soul. The heart of the jungle is all of us. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey through the entire season. Your support, your comments, and your love for this story have meant the world to us. If you enjoyed this finale, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what we have coming next. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you for being part of our jungle.